In this episode, we dive into the most horrifying shark attacks, from a commercial sea urchin diver that attracted an aggressive blue shark to a cinematographer that made a great white shark fully aggressive. But first, let's start with the story of a woman eaten alive by an 18-foot great white shark. The morning of April 14th, 2014 dawned with perfect conditions at southeast Farallon Island, California. The Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly under a brilliant blue sky, with crystal-clear visibility that marine researchers dream of. The water temperature held steady at 58 degrees Fahrenheit, ideal for the California sea lions that called these rocky outcroppings home. Emma Rodriguez, 24, couldn't have asked for better conditions for her thesis research dive. The UC Santa Barbara graduate student had been awake since 4:30 a.m., her excitement barely contained as she prepared her equipment on the research vessel. Emma was intensely passionate about marine biology, methodical in her research, and fearless when it came to underwater exploration. She had completed her scientific diving certification 18 months earlier and had already logged 89 research dives, mostly in the familiar waters of Monterey Bay. Working under Dr. Patricia Chen's lab, Emma was conducting her third dive at the Farallons, focusing on California sea lion foraging behavior for her master's thesis. The Farallon Islands, located 27 miles west of San Francisco, were known as the Galapagos of California for their incredible biodiversity. What made these waters so rich in marine life also made them incredibly dangerous. The Farallons sit directly in the path of the California Current, creating an explosion of marine life that attracts the ocean's most feared predator. Massive colonies of seals and sea lions, over 100,000 individuals during peak season, hauled out on the rocky shores. Great white sharks patrol these waters with evolutionary perfection, honed over 400 million years. These apex predators can grow up to 20 feet in length and weigh over 5,000 pounds. Their torpedo-shaped bodies capable of explosive bursts of speed reaching 25 miles per hour. Their most terrifying feature is their mouth, lined with up to 300 serrated triangular teeth that continuously regenerate throughout their lifetime. At 6:45 a.m., Emma made her fatal mistake. She descended to 25 feet, positioning herself directly above a seal haul-out ledge during peak predation hours, the ring of death that occurs between 6 and 8 a.m. when seals return from overnight foraging trips, exhausted and vulnerable. Wearing her standard black wetsuit and carrying a bright yellow data slate, Emma remained perfectly still 15 feet above the seal colony, methodically counting and photographing the animals. What Emma didn't know was that an 18-foot female great white had been patrolling these waters since dawn. This massive predator, weighing approximately 4,500 pounds, had already made 2 unsuccessful attacks on seals and was in an aggressive hunting state. Female great whites are typically larger than males and more aggressive, especially during feeding periods. Great whites possess extraordinary sensory capabilities that make them perfect killing machines. They can detect a single drop of blood in 25 gallons of water from up to 3 miles away. Emma's silhouette against the surface, combined with her black wetsuit and methodical movements, perfectly mimicked a resting seal. Her yellow data slate, flashing in the sunlight, may have resembled the pale belly of an injured seal. The attack came with devastating precision. The shark approached from the deep channel below, accelerating to its maximum speed of 25 miles per hour in the last 20 feet. The attack was so violent that the shark's momentum carried both predator and prey several feet above the surface in an explosion of white water. The massive jaws, measuring 18 inches across, delivered the initial bite to Emma's torso with the full force of 1,800 psi. The serrated teeth, each up to 2.5 inches long, sliced through her wetsuit, flesh and bone with surgical precision. Her dive partner, working 150 feet away, heard the distinctive surface disturbance and saw the explosive white water that marked a great white attack. The research vessel crew activated emergency protocols immediately, but Emma had sustained catastrophic damage to major organs and arteries. The great white's bite had crushed ribs, punctured lungs, and severed major blood vessels. She was recovered in just 4 minutes, but the massive internal bleeding and shock had already begun shutting down her vital systems. Emma died before the Coast Guard helicopter could reach the mainland. Her promising career in marine science cut tragically short during peak predation hours in the world's most active great white hunting ground. While the crystal-clear waters of California claimed one life in their deadly embrace, hundreds of miles south, another diver would soon discover that changing ocean conditions can bring unexpected predators into familiar waters. September 22, 2015, brought unusual conditions to Bodega Bay, California. Heavy rains from the previous week had created significant runoff, reducing underwater visibility to a dangerous 3 feet and bringing nutrients that attracted massive schools of bait fish. The water temperature had risen to an unusual 64 degrees Fahrenheit due to El Niño conditions. Carlos Mendoza, 38, had seen worse conditions in his 12 years of commercial sea urchin diving, but something felt different about this day. Carlos was the kind of diver other professionals respected, methodical, experienced, and never one to take unnecessary risks. His weathered hands and sun-darkened skin told the story of over 2,000 commercial dives along the Northern California coast. He worked exclusively with his brother as a dive tender, and their operation was known for its safety record. The recent El Niño weather pattern had created unusual conditions throughout the Pacific coast, bringing warmer water temperatures and altered current patterns that disrupted normal marine ecosystems. These conditions had attracted an unexpected visitor to the shallow waters of Bodega Bay, a predator that typically remained in deeper offshore waters. Blue sharks are among the most wide-ranging and aggressive predators in the world's oceans. These sleek, fast-moving sharks typically inhabit open ocean environments, but are known to venture into coastal waters when following prey or unusual current patterns. Growing up to 12 feet in length and weighing up to 400 pounds, blue sharks are built for speed and endurance. What makes blue sharks particularly dangerous is their opportunistic and aggressive nature. Unlike many shark species that are cautious around unfamiliar objects, blue sharks are bold investigators that will attack almost anything that moves. That afternoon, Carlos was completing his final dive of the day, working at 45 feet depth to harvest red sea urchins from the rocky bottom near the Russian River mouth. The recent storms had stirred up the bottom sediment, creating murky conditions that reduced visibility to almost zero. Following strict commercial diving protocols, he began his ascent at 1:30 p.m., stopping at 15 feet for his mandatory 3-minute safety stop. The 10-foot blue shark had been patrolling these waters for several days, following the unusual warm water intrusion that had brought it far from its normal open ocean habitat. The murky conditions didn't hinder this predator, which relied heavily on its other senses to locate prey. The shark had been feeding on the abundant bait fish in the area, but the presence of a large moving object in its territory triggered its investigative response. As Carlos reached for his surface marker buoy during his safety stop, the movement attracted the blue shark's attention through the murky water. The shark's lateral line system detected the water displacement, while its ampullae of Lorenzini sensed the electrical field generated by his beating heart. Carlos caught a glimpse of movement in his peripheral vision, but couldn't identify the source in the murky conditions. The attack came suddenly and with devastating force. The blue shark grabbed Carlos's right leg just above the knee, its powerful jaws clamping down with 1,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. The sharp, triangular teeth sliced through his wetsuit and deep into muscle and bone. Blue sharks are known for their tenacious grip and thrashing behavior, designed to subdue large prey in the open ocean. Carlos immediately activated his emergency whistle and fought back with his urchin rake. striking at the shark's head and snout. But blue sharks are persistent attackers that rarely retreat once they commit to an assault. The thrashing continued for nearly 90 seconds as the shark attempted to subdue its prey. The shark's serrated teeth sawed through Carlos's femoral artery, sending clouds of blood into the murky water. The scent of blood triggered an even more aggressive response from the blue shark, which began to roll and twist in an attempt to tear away larger pieces of flesh. Carlos managed to drive his dive knife deep into the shark's gill area, finally forcing it to release its grip and retreat into the murky water. His brother heard the emergency whistle from the boat 100 yards away and immediately raced toward Carlos's dive flag, covering the distance in 90 seconds. Despite his brother's desperate efforts to control the bleeding and race toward shore at maximum speed, Carlos died from hemorrhagic shock during the 8-minute boat ride to the harbor. While the murky waters of Bodega Bay concealed a predator displaced by unusual conditions, 40 miles south of San Diego, a Coast Guard rescue swimmer was about to face a different kind of nightmare, one where mechanical failure would leave him stranded in open ocean. June 8, 2016, dawned with moderate swells and clear skies 40 miles southwest of San Diego, California. The Pacific stretched endlessly in all directions, its deep blue surface broken only by occasional whitecaps. The water temperature held steady at 68 degrees Fahrenheit. For Petty Officer Second Class Marcus Thompson, 28, it was shaping up to be a routine rescue operation, the kind he had successfully completed 127 times during his 6 years of Coast Guard service. Marcus embodied everything the Coast Guard looked for in a rescue swimmer. At 6 feet 2 inches with the lean, powerful build of a competitive swimmer, he had earned a reputation as one of the most capable rescue swimmers in his unit. He had pulled survivors from sinking vessels, plucked injured fishermen from storm-tossed boats, and once spent 45 minutes in 12-foot seas, rescuing a family whose yacht had capsized. The waters 40 miles offshore represented a completely different ecosystem from coastal areas. This was the domain of pelagic species, creatures adapted to life in the open ocean, where the nearest land might be hundreds of miles away. Here, apex predators ruled with absolute authority over vast territories of blue water. At 2:15 p.m., Marcus was lowered from an HH-60 Jayhawk helicopter to assist 3 fishermen whose vessel was taking on water rapidly. The fishing boat had been chumming for yellowfin tuna earlier in the day, creating a slick of blood and fish parts that extended for nearly a mile. As Marcus reached the water, in his bright orange survival suit, disaster struck. The helicopter's hoist mechanism failed catastrophically, stranding him in the open ocean, while the aircraft was forced to return to base for emergency repairs. What Marcus didn't know was that the chum slick had attracted several oceanic white-tip sharks to the area. These open ocean predators are considered by many marine biologists to be the most dangerous sharks in the world when it comes to open water encounters. Unlike coastal species that have abundant food sources, oceanic white-tips patrol vast areas of nutrient-poor open ocean, making them incredibly opportunistic and aggressive when they encounter potential prey. Oceanic white-tip sharks are perfectly adapted for life in the open ocean. They typically grow to 10 to 11 feet in length and can weigh up to 170 pounds, with a distinctive stocky build and rounded fins tipped with white markings that give them their name. What makes oceanic whitetips particularly terrifying is their feeding behavior. Unlike coastal sharks that might investigate and retreat, oceanic whitetips are persistent attackers that will continue their assault until their prey is completely consumed. They are known to follow ships for days, waiting for any opportunity to feed. During World War II, they were responsible for more human fatalities than any other shark species. A 10-foot male had been following the chum slick for hours, drawn by the scent of blood and fish oils. When Marcus entered the water, the shark immediately detected his presence through multiple sensory channels. Marcus treaded water in his survival suit, following his training to remain calm and avoid sudden movements. But in the open ocean, there was nowhere to hide. He was completely exposed in thousands of feet of blue water, his bright orange suit making him highly visible to any predator in the area. The shark approached Marcus with the bold confidence typical of its species. Unlike coastal sharks that might circle warily, the oceanic whitetip came directly toward him. Its large pectoral fins spread wide as it glided through the water with predatory grace. Marcus could see the distinctive white-tipped fins cutting through the surface as the massive predator closed the distance. For 20 agonizing minutes, the shark circled Marcus, making increasingly close passes while he tried to remain calm. Each pass brought the predator closer, its small, dark eyes fixed on him with unmistakable intent. When Marcus attempted to deploy his emergency shark repellent device, the cartridge malfunctioned, leaving him completely defenseless. The shark's investigation phase ended abruptly when it detected Marcus's increasing stress levels through his elevated heart rate and rapid breathing. The oceanic whitetip struck with bold aggression, grabbing Marcus's leg with devastating force. Its powerful jaws clamped down with approximately 1,000 psi of pressure, the serrated teeth slicing through his survival suit and deep into muscle and bone. Marcus used his rescue knife to defend himself, striking at the shark's snout and gills in a desperate attempt to force it to release its grip. The attack lasted for nearly 2 minutes. The shark's persistence was characteristic of oceanic whitetips, which rarely retreat once they commit to an attack. Marcus's blood in the water only increased the predator's aggression. The backup helicopter arrived 25 minutes later to find Marcus unconscious and bleeding heavily, the water around him stained red with his blood. The shark had finally released its grip when the helicopter's rotor wash disturbed the water surface, but the damage was catastrophic. Despite immediate medical attention during the flight to shore, Marcus died from massive blood loss and shock before reaching the hospital. His death led to mandatory backup shark deterrent systems for all Coast Guard rescue swimmers. While the open ocean claimed a hero's life in broad daylight, in the warm, clear waters of the Florida Keys, a world-class freediver was about to discover that even the most experienced ocean athletes can fall victim to the sea's most opportunistic and unpredictable predators. August 17, 2017, brought perfect conditions to the waters 25 miles off Marathon in the Florida Keys. The Gulf Stream current ran clear and blue, with visibility extending over 100 feet into the crystal-clear depths. The water temperature held steady at a comfortable 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Alexandra Alex Petrov, 31, had been looking forward to this deep training session for weeks. Alex was a legend in the freediving community, a world-ranked athlete who could dive to depths exceeding 200 feet on a single breath. Her lean, athletic build and intense focus had earned her multiple national records and the respect of freedivers worldwide. She had been teaching freediving for 8 years, running a successful school in Key Largo, where she trained hundreds of students. The waters off the Florida Keys represented some of the most challenging and rewarding freediving locations in the world. The proximity to the Gulf Stream brought clear, warm water and an abundance of pelagic species, but it also attracted some of the ocean's most dangerous predators. At 4:20 p.m., Alex was demonstrating deep, constant weight technique for an advanced student, preparing to descend to 180 feet. During her extended bottom time at 180 feet, Alex experienced shallow water blackout during her ascent, a condition where decreased oxygen levels cause unconsciousness as a freediver approaches the surface. When she finally broke the surface, gasping for air after the deep dive, she found herself 400 yards from her safety boat in unfamiliar water. What Alex didn't know was that she had surfaced directly in a feeding zone where a dead pilot whale calf had been floating for 2 days. The decomposing carcass had created a massive scent trail that attracted scavengers from miles around, including some of the ocean's most dangerous predators. Tiger sharks are among the most dangerous predators in tropical and subtropical waters worldwide. These massive sharks can grow up to 18 feet in length and weigh over 1,400 pounds, making them one of the largest predatory sharks in the ocean. Their distinctive dark stripes, which give them their name, fade as they mature, but their reputation as indiscriminate killers only grows stronger with age. What makes tiger sharks particularly terrifying is their feeding behavior. They are often called the waste baskets of the sea because they will eat virtually anything they encounter. Their stomachs have been found to contain everything from sea turtles and seals to license plates, tires, and even human remains. This indiscriminate feeding behavior, combined with their massive size and powerful jaws, makes them extremely dangerous to humans. Tiger sharks possess incredibly powerful jaws, capable of delivering up to 1,050 pounds per square inch of crushing force. Their teeth are uniquely designed with a curved, serrated edge that can cut through the shells of sea turtles, the tough skin of other sharks, and even metal objects. A 14-foot female tiger shark had been feeding aggressively on the whale carcass and was in a heightened predatory state. The massive predator, weighing approximately 1,200 pounds, had been gorging herself on the rich blubber and meat of the dead whale. When feeding on large carcasses, tiger sharks often become more aggressive and territorial, defending their food source against any perceived threats. Alex's rapid breathing and surface splashing after the deep dive attracted the shark's attention immediately. To the predator, the surface disturbance looked like a wounded or distressed animal, exactly the type of easy prey that tiger sharks are programmed to attack. The shark's lateral line system detected the water movements caused by Alex's breathing and arm movements, while her elevated heart rate after the deep dive created electrical signals that the shark could detect from a considerable distance. The massive predator approached from below, using the sun's glare on the surface to mask its approach until the final moment. Alex, still recovering from her deep dive and disoriented from the shallow water blackout, never saw the attack coming. The shark approached from below and grabbed Alex's torso in a single, devastating bite that showcased the full power of one of the ocean's most formidable predators. Massive jaws, capable of opening to a gape of nearly 2 feet, engulfed her midsection with crushing force. The serrated teeth sliced through her wetsuit and deep into her torso, crushing ribs and puncturing vital organs. The attack lasted approximately 30 seconds, but the damage was catastrophic. Tiger sharks are known for their powerful bite and thrashing behavior, using their muscular necks to cause maximum trauma to their prey. The shark's grip crushed Alex's ribcage and caused massive internal bleeding before it released her and disappeared into the depths. Her safety diver, searching frantically from the boat after losing sight of Alex during her ascent, heard her brief scream and located her within 3 minutes, but the damage had already been done. The shark's powerful jaws had crushed Alex's ribcage and punctured her lungs, liver, and other vital organs. Massive internal bleeding had already begun, and her body was going into shock from the trauma. Alex was pulled from the water and given immediate medical attention, but the damage was too severe. She died from massive internal trauma and blood loss before reaching shore. Her world-class athletic career ended by one of the ocean's most unpredictable predators. Investigation revealed that the whale carcass had created a feeding aggregation of multiple tiger sharks in the area, critical information that hadn't been communicated to local dive operators. The incident led to new protocols requiring marine wildlife surveys before deep diving operations. While the warm waters of the Florida Keys claimed a freediving champion off the coast of Mexico, an award-winning filmmaker was about to learn that artificial lights can transform even the most controlled shark encounter into a deadly nightmare. October 3, 2018 brought crystal clear conditions to the waters surrounding Isla Guadalupe, Mexico. The remote island, located 150 miles off the Baja California coast, offered some of the clearest water and most predictable great white shark encounters on the planet. Visibility extended over 150 feet in the deep blue water, and the water temperature held steady at 70 degrees Fahrenheit. David Chen, 33, had been looking forward to this night shoot for months, knowing that documenting nocturnal great white behavior could revolutionize understanding of these apex predators. David was an award-winning underwater cinematographer whose work had appeared in National Geographic documentaries and major motion pictures. His passion for shark behavior had led him to specialize in great white footage, and he had spent 5 years filming at Guadalupe Island without incident. He had thousands of hours of great white footage and worked exclusively with the most established and safety-conscious operators in the business. Isla Guadalupe had become the premier destination for great white shark encounters due to its unique geography and marine ecosystem. This topography, combined with abundant seal colonies and nutrient-rich currents, creates perfect conditions for great white sharks. Waters around Guadalupe host one of the largest concentrations of great whites in the world. The great white sharks of Guadalupe are among the largest and most impressive specimens of their species. At 8:30 p.m., David was filming from a specially designed night cage, part of a National Geographic project documenting nocturnal great white behavior that had never been captured on film before. The cage was constructed of reinforced aluminum bars with emergency release mechanisms designed to prevent entrapment if the structure became damaged. David was using cutting-edge equipment, including a new high-intensity LED array that produced 12,000 lumens, significantly brighter than any underwater lighting system previously used for shark filming. Great white sharks are primarily visual hunters that rely heavily on their eyesight to locate and attack prey. What David didn't anticipate was how the intense artificial lighting would affect a massive 17-foot male great white that had been hunting in the area. Great whites have evolved to hunt in specific light conditions, and the powerful LED array began to disorient and agitate the already territorial predator. The artificial lighting disrupted the shark's natural hunting behavior, creating confusion and stress that manifested as increasingly aggressive behavior. The 17-foot male great white, weighing approximately 3,800 pounds, had been patrolling the waters around Guadalupe for several days. This was a mature, experienced predator that had successfully hunted in these waters for years. Male great whites of this size are incredibly territorial and aggressive, especially when their normal behavior patterns are disrupted. Great white sharks possess a complex nervous system that processes visual information with remarkable efficiency. Their brains are specifically adapted to interpret the subtle light patterns and shadows that indicate the presence of prey. When exposed to artificial lighting of extreme intensity, their visual processing system can become overwhelmed, leading to disorientation and aggressive behavior. The shark started exhibiting increasingly erratic behavior, repeatedly ramming the cage with tremendous force. Each impact sent shockwaves through the water and caused the entire cage structure to shake violently. The aluminum bars, designed to withstand the force of a great white attack, began to show stress fractures under the repeated impacts. David continued filming, believing that the cage would protect him from the agitated predator. Great white sharks can generate incredible force when attacking. Their torpedo-shaped bodies, powered by massive tail muscles, can accelerate from 0 to 25 miles per hour in seconds. Shark's behavior became increasingly frenzied as the bright lights continued to disorient its visual system. What should have been a controlled observation session was rapidly deteriorating into a dangerous confrontation between human technology and one of nature's most perfect predators. When David tried to adjust his lighting setup to reduce the shark's agitation, he accidentally triggered the cage's emergency release mechanism, a safety feature designed to prevent entrapment if the cage became damaged during an attack. The top section of the cage opened, creating a 3-foot gap that the massive shark immediately exploited. Great whites are incredibly intelligent predators with excellent spatial awareness. The shark recognized the opening instantly and adjusted its attack pattern to take advantage of the breach in David's defenses. The agitated great white, drawn by the intense lights and David's movements, attacked through the opening with explosive force. This 17-foot individual was already in an excited, aggressive state, and its attack carried the full force of millions of years of evolutionary refinement. The shark's massive jaws, measuring over 18 inches across, clamped down on David's torso with devastating force. The 300 triangular, serrated teeth sliced through his diving equipment and deep into his chest and shoulders. The bite force of 1,800 psi crushed ribs and punctured vital organs, while the shark's brief thrashing motion caused additional trauma as it attempted to drag its prey from the compromised cage. The attack lasted only seconds, but the damage was catastrophic. David's underwater camera continued recording throughout the encounter, capturing footage that would later be used to analyze the incident and improve safety protocols. The images showed the incredible power and speed of a great white attack, as well as the devastating effectiveness of their primary weapon. The boat crew immediately cut all lights and activated emergency protocols, and the sudden darkness seemed to calm the shark, which released its grip and disappeared into the depths as quickly as it had appeared. But the damage was done. David had sustained catastrophic injuries to his cardiovascular and respiratory systems. He was recovered within 90 seconds, a remarkably fast response time that demonstrated the professionalism of the dive crew. But the great white's attack had severed major arteries and crushed vital organs. Despite immediate first aid and emergency medical procedures, David was bleeding internally at a rate that made survival impossible. David died from blood loss and shock before the support vessel could reach the mainland, his final moments captured on the very cameras he had used to document the ocean's apex predators. The footage he had been recording became evidence in the investigation that followed, providing unprecedented insight into great white behavior under artificial lighting conditions. This tragic incident led to new protocols limiting light intensity for all-night filming operations with great whites and requiring backup safety systems for cage diving operations. The investigation revealed that high-intensity artificial lighting could trigger aggressive behavior in great whites, transforming controlled observation sessions into deadly encounters.